So, you've filed for a green card. You probably already know the process can feel like a total marathon. And, while you're in that long waiting game, life doesn't just stop, right? But here's something a lot of people don't realize. Those big life events can have a huge impact on your case.
So think about it. Did you get a new job? Did your family situation shift? It is a super common mistake to think that your eligibility is kind of locked in on the day you file that application. But honestly, that assumption can be a really dangerous one.
In fact, a major change in your life is one of the top reasons for an adjustment of status to get denied. Okay, so let's dive into exactly why this happens and, more importantly, what you can do about it. It all really comes down to this one fundamental rule that basically governs the entire I-485 process. It's something immigration officers are looking at from the very beginning to the very end.
And this is the key concept right here: continuous eligibility. It means exactly what it sounds like. You have to be eligible for your green card not just on day one, but on every single day your application is pending, all the way up until the moment it's finally approved. So here's the bottom line. Your application isn't just a snapshot taken on the day you filed. It's more like a movie that's being watched the entire time. If the original reason for your application disappears, the job offer that started it all or the marriage, your case could be in some serious trouble.
So what kind of life changes are we actually talking about here? Well, USCIS pays very close attention to a few specific areas that can totally change the foundation of your case. We're going to break down 3 of the biggest ones: major shifts in your job, your family and relationships, and your financial situation. Let's kick things off with employment. If you've got an employment-based green card application, that original job offer from your sponsor, well, it's pretty much everything. If they pull the offer, or the company goes out of business, or you get laid off, USCIS is going to immediately start asking if your application is even valid anymore. But, and this is a big but, there is a very important exception.
And the magic number you have to remember is 180. If your application has been pending for at least this many days, there's a special rule that might just save your entire case. It's called the AC-21 portability rule, and it's a lifesaver. It lets you change jobs as long as your application has been in the system for over 180 days, and your new job is in the same, or at least a similar line of work. You just have to make sure you notify USCIS using a specific form, the I-485 Supplement J.
Okay, so what about family-based cases? Well, for these, the valid marriage is the foundation. So it's pretty straightforward. If you get divorced before your green card gets approved, the legal reason for your application often just vanishes.
Now, there are some really critical exceptions here. For example, if you were in an abusive marriage, you might be able to file for a green card on your own under the protections of the Violence Against Women Act, or VAWA, even if that marriage ends.
And finally, let's talk about money. Your sponsor signed an affidavit of support, basically promising to be financially responsible for you. If their income suddenly drops or they lose their job, USCIS starts to worry that you might become a so-called public charge. The solution? Oftentimes, it's finding a qualified joint sponsor to step in and keep your application moving forward.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about a really critical and, frankly, a completely avoidable mistake that a lot of applicants make. This one is all about international travel. It seems like such a simple question, right? Your application is pending, but a family emergency comes up or you have a crucial business trip. Can you leave the country? The answer to this has incredibly high stakes.
And this just lays it out perfectly. There are 2 paths. If you get permission before you travel by getting a document called advance parole, you're all good. Your application stays active. But if you leave the U.S. without it, USCIS can and often will call your application abandoned. And that means an automatic denial.
Now, at this point, you might be thinking, well, what if I just don't tell them about my new job or my divorce? Let me just say that is not a good strategy. In fact, it's a terrible one.
USCIS has a whole bunch of ways to verify your information. They can easily check public records for things like divorce filings. They might call your original employer just to check in, and they will absolutely ask you very direct questions at your green card interview.
And that's really the most important part. During that interview, you are under oath. Lying, or just not mentioning a huge life change, isn't a small thing. It can be seen as misrepresentation or even fraud, which carries way more severe consequences for your entire future in the U.S.
Okay, so knowing all of these potential traps, how do you actually protect yourself and your application? The absolute key is to be proactive, not reactive.
Here's a simple little plan. First, Keep detailed records of everything. Second, report required changes fast. You're legally required to report a new address within 10 days. And third, if you ever get a notice from USCIS asking for more info, respond quickly and completely. That's your chance to explain what's changed and show them you still qualify.
But what happens if the worst-case scenario plays out and your application gets denied? I know it can feel absolutely devastating, but it is so important to know that it might not be the final word.
You may still have options. Depending on why you were denied, you might be able to file an appeal or a motion to have them reconsider. In other cases, you might be able to just refile your application once you fix the problem. The key is to act fast and really look into all of your possible pathways.
Look, the green card journey is long and life is just unpredictable. Understanding this rule of continuous eligibility is truly your best defense. Being proactive, being honest about changes, it's not just good advice, it is absolutely essential for protecting your future. So the real question I want to leave you with is this: is your application truly prepared for whatever life decides to throw its way?